Hey guys, Crashed X-Wing here. Long-awaited video for some of you guys. I know I promised some commenters and redditors that I'd get this video out sooner, and I didn't quite hit the mark there. But here it is finally, and if you appreciate what's going on here in this channel, then please consider subscribing and liking the video. There's going to be more content in the future, lightsaber content, just general Star Wars content, Disney's Galaxy's Edge content, cosplay content, stuff like that coming out in the future. So like I said, if you like me, if you like these videos, if they helped you out, consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribing, all that usual stuff. But enough plugging. Onto the actual subject of the video, which is blade effects. A lot of people really want to know how the Asteria board works with blade effects. I'll be the first person to tell you that it is kind of cryptic and hard to navigate. But this video should hopefully help you get through the basic effects and how to maybe tweak some things. So yeah, if this is your first time ever digging into the Asteria board or the soundboard in general, probably don't start with this video. I have another video out on my channel which goes over how to change the sounds, and that video will go over the soundboard itself, how everything's laid out, etc., etc. But if you're already familiar with the board, or if you've already seen that video, then this video will help you figure out the blade effects, including the changing of colors and stuff like that, and all the different lighting and effects and stuff. I've gone ahead and actually, in this video, recorded every single individual blade effect so that you can see what they look like without having to test and finagle on your own. What I didn't do is combine some of those blade effects or change their settings in any way. So that's going to be up to you. If you like something but want to tweak it, you're going to have to kind of play around with it, but hopefully this video will show you how that all works. So let's go ahead and get cracking. We'll put that aside. So we're on my desktop. Now, I've gone ahead and have already downloaded everything onto my computer, so we're not editing directly on my board. So this is my Asteria editing copy. Your board will likely look a little bit different. But the first thing we're going to go into is very simple. It's the color matrix. Now, a lot of you probably already know how this works. It's pretty simple, but it is important because the colors that you pick on this color matrix can have a huge effect on some of the blade effects. So if you see some of the blade effects in this video and you think that looks dumb or looks bad, consider what it might look like with different colors. So here we have the color matrix, and we have three primary important colors: MC, SC, and FC. MC being the main color, that's the main body of the blade. And then we have SC, which is a secondary color that some blade effects will use to cycle through different colors. And then FC is the color that blaster effects and clashes are going to be using and stuff like that. And as you can see with config 1, config 2, and all this stuff, you have three separate lines with different values. So these are ways that you can create those colors. I'm not going to go over how to do that in this video. You can Google it. But this is basically RGB, ranging from 0 being that color is not present to 255, which means that color is as represented as possible. So black, in this case, not lit, would be 000, whereas white would be 255, 255, 255. All three colors create white. If you just wanted red, for example, it would be 25500. So on and so forth. You can Google different, ways to get the colors you want and mess around with it. I highly recommend using as high of a value as possible, because the higher the value, the brighter the blade you're going to get. But if you do, for some reason, want a dimmer color or something like that, you can use lower values in general. So here you go. You can have a bunch of colors. Default, it seems to come with 12. You might be able to do more. I'm not sure. But 12 should be plenty. So cool. Let's go ahead and close that. Now into the meat and potatoes of the video. Here is the blade effects. Now, if you looked at the Asteria editing thing down here, we have the UW 2.0 blade effect, blah 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 zip. Now that is where all these effects lie. So what I've gone ahead and done is I've copied it. I put it inside this folder that I named Blade on my desktop. And then I went ahead and extracted it. Again, if you don't know how to extract something, that's a separate video you should probably Google or look up on YouTube. So here's everything that's in here. So we have BG, FT, OI, and TG files. Now these are all of the different various blade effects. So I'll go over what each one of these do. So BG is going to be your main blade effects, and here's 9 of them. And if you go in here, you can see they have different, they have different settings and stuff like that, and different names. So we'll go through each one of them as quickly as I can, not waste any time. But BG files are basically your main blade files. They're the ones that change the colors of the blades and stuff like that. And they, you know, they have different, the most drastic effects, the most extreme effects, I would say. They can go anywhere from being just the pure static color with nothing to rainbow time, you know, stuff like that. The FT file is also your kind of secondary blade effect, and this mostly has to do with affecting blade lighting. So this is like flickering or like pulsing and stuff like that, crackling and stuff like that without changing the color. So this is a more subdued effect, but the BG and FT files can both combine to create some interesting effects. OI files are basically the blade coming out and coming in, what that might look like, and it ranges from 1, which is just a simple out in, nothing fancy going on, all the way to like a very crackly kind of entering that kind of charges up and stuff like that. So again, and I'll show all of those effects. And then TG files, this is your blaster and lockup files. The lockup files and the blaster files on this board is the same. It's whatever you decide to use will just get replayed multiple times. Unfortunately, there's really only one that works as a lockup, and the other 3 are more like blaster effects. But you can play around with them, and maybe you'll create some cool stuff that could be used for both. So now we're going to quickly go through each file. I'm going to be showing a little clip somewhere off to the side that'll just replay as I'm talking about each file that will show you what that file looks like. Now, I tried to pick some colors that would be really easy to see on camera, so it might not look great, but hopefully you'll be able to tell what the actual effect does. So our first effect, BG1, this is just a pure color, nothing going on here. Very, very simple effect, and in fact, if you were to have no effect at all, this is also the same thing that would end up getting played. It's just your primary color. Pretty self-explanatory. 2 is gradient. I'm going to show what this looks like somewhere. So we're switching between 2 different colors. We can affect the length, the speed, and the direction. I haven't played around with these values, but if you're curious, I encourage you to do that. It would take me too long to try to mess around with all of these values. Here's the third effect. So double color blink. It is a pretty stark change, specifically between these 2 colors. But as you can see here, we can change to MC time to SE time. So you can make this faster. You can make this slower. You could change the secondary color to be a little bit closer to the main color so it doesn't hurt your eyes like this version does. But yeah, so this is the third mode. Fourth mode, pulse. This is a really nice kind of shift between colors. And as you can see here, you can set how long the MC and SE times are again. But now what we can also do is take how long it takes to actually shift between those 2 colors. And you can even change, you know, how long it stays in one color and then goes to the next one. So maybe you want it to stay on the main color for a long time, but shift to the second color and back really quickly. You can do that. And all these values are ranged here, 200, 500. So here we go. 5, RGB gradient. I mean, it is what it does, what it says on the tin here. It's just going to cycle through RGB. No amount of color changing, I think, affects that really. But you can change how fast and how slow it kind of shifts between those colors. So spark, pretty interesting one as well. You can change how long it does it for, how the density of the sparks themselves and stuff like that. Another pretty simple one. If in these settings it doesn't say anything about MC or SC, then you know that it's not color dependent. You can still try it with different colors and you'll get different effects and stuff, but you're not going to be able to control it, I don't believe. So let's go ahead and close out of that one. Rainbow, again, kind of what it says in the tin. I really like this one, actually. This would be really cool for, you know, maybe some kind of event or something that is less serious Star Wars and more fun. So speed of the rainbow, you can change the direction if you wanted to scroll up or down. The length of the rainbow, I'm assuming, is the length of each kind of individual color. So you could potentially make this really long and then have it be the length of one blade and just kind of shift colors vertically or one way, you know, up or down, basically. So that would be pretty cool. Chaos. This is the best way I can explain this is it kind of like a crackle effect, very Kylo Ren like, but we're involving some other colors and stuff here. You can change the rate, frequency, and multiplication. Now, like I said, I haven't messed around with that specifically, but I'm assuming this is all just changing the intensity of what colors it shifts to, how long it does it for, how much of the blade is being affected, etc., etc. And you can play around with that, but hopefully this video gives you a general idea of what the chaos effect does. And the flame effect. This is also a really cool one. Doesn't really work for like a Star Wars lightsaber, but maybe you can do something with it. This one probably has the most settings to play around with. The speed of the flame, the cooldown, average length, range of flame, average lightness, range of lightness. Pretty stark and, you know, pretty interesting effect to potentially play with here. So you might be able to make a cool lightsaber effect by changing some of these values. But yeah, so those are our most drastic effects, the BG effects. These are going to have the most direct control over your lightsaber to get you a different kind of feel. But we have another type of effect, which is the FT effect. There's only 5 of these. And these also, in combination with some of the effects you've seen previously, can create some interesting things. So the Blade and FT files together do work. They go in the same folder, which is the hum folder. And I'll go over more of that later. But you can have one BG and one FT file in the hum to create some different effects. So here's our first one, which is Breath, which is a really nice, solid kind of... it's not a pulse because there's another one called Pulse, but, I mean, you can see it on the video. You can change how long it does that for, what its minimum brightness and its maximum brightness. So again, not changing colors, just changing the light. Here's our second one, which is Flicker. This is a nice kind of, again, unstable Kylo Ren type effect. You can change, you know, how strong this effect is, brightness, minimum brightness, the density, and how long it's staying in that flicker mode for. Wave. There's another video somewhere around here that should help you see what this does. But a pretty nice effect, I'd say. You might want to touch some of the brightness effects, but if you made this really subtle, you could probably make a really cool effect out of this one. You can change the speed, the length, all that good stuff here. We'll close out of that one. Number 4, Fade. So, this is a weird one. I, so far in my testing, have not been able to do anything with this one. If you see the video, it looks just like normal. I triple checked that I did have this FT file in my hum, and it kind of wasn't doing anything. I have some ideas, and I'll play around with them, and if I figure anything out about this fade, I'm either going to cut to a clip in a second, or I'm going to comment or leave something in the description, probably a comment. I'll pin a comment about what this does. If you don't see a clip in a second, or if you don't see a comment pinned and you know what this does, please let me know. that's the only one that's going to be like that, where I don't know what it does. So I'm really sorry. Like I said, if I find out anything about it, I will let you guys know. And then the last, fifth one, random wave. Very similar to some of the previous ones, but maybe a little bit more subtle. Again, you can play around with all of these settings to configure it the way you'd like to configure it. So cool. That is all of the FT files now. So those are, like I said, our most our main files for the lightsaber and stuff like that. That's going to affect a lot of what the lightsaber looks like. But we do have some other files here. This is our OI folder, which is going to have all of our, saber coming out and saber coming in effects. And they both are used the same way, and the saber will just reverse it for you. So as you can see here, this first one, fade, is just very simple. The saber just comes out, comes in, no fanfare, no nothing. It's a pretty standard effect. You can change how fast it is if you want. 2 is interesting. Plus, I'm assuming they meant pulse, but plus. So this is kind of like a like it's almost revving up a little bit. Very interesting for a lightsaber. You can again change a whole bunch of settings here to make it more personal for you. Number 3 here, Comet, is my favorite. Really cool effect. So as you can see here, the block color, you can change. This is maybe hard to see in the video, but there's like a little block of a different color that comes out before the main body of the lightsaber. In this case, it's white, and the white one looks really cool. It makes it look like a lightsaber out of the movies when it extends out. But you can change the color of that block. So as you can see here, right now, this block is set to 255, 255, 255, which is white. But if you wanted that block to be something different, like red or green or blue or whatever, you can do that here, and it's pretty interesting. And the color mix rate, I'm assuming, is just kind of like a little buffer between that that block color and your main color to get something different. So this is probably my favorite OI effect, and you can do a lot with it. And like usual, you can change how fast it comes out. Now, there's 3 OI files, but there's actually a secret 4th hidden one that I'll show you now. This is what happens when you have no OI file left in. It's basically OI 1, but really, really, really slow. So you could probably just put OI 1 and have it change the setting to be really, really slow. But if you leave it all empty, you'll get this slow one by default. So kind of a hidden 4th OI file. It does not default to OI 1's default speed. It's a much slower version of that. So cool. The last folder effect, the blaster / lockup effects. Here's the first one, flip. This is really more of a lockup kind of effect, and it's just gonna flip colors between your main color and your FC color in the LED config. So it works for blaster too. It'll just, have the whole thing flash, and it'll work as a lockup, just flashing between 2 the whole time. But yeah, so that's how you get that. The second one, part flip. This is more of a blaster effect. So basically, this is like the isolated blaster colors and stuff like that. So again, you can change how long those are, how short they are, and all that stuff here. And it'll, you can personalize the actual blaster effect. So you can change also like where it can appear, not just how long it is, but if you don't want it to ever appear on the tip, for example, you can change it so that it never does that. If you never want it to, come closer to the hilt, you can do that too. So 3, Comet. The next 2 are kind of similar. Comet is very subtle. I really like this one, actually. I like the fact that it just kind of extends out. Might work as a lockup, if you make it like maybe faster, but works really well as a kind of blaster effect if, you know, you're thinking more that instead of deflecting it, you're like absorbing it. So really cool idea here and really cool blaster effect. And so 4 is called Spread, very similar to Comet, but maybe a little bit more pronounced. Another good one for blaster deflects. Maybe if you changed it, you could make a lockup out of it. But it looks really cool. I like the fact that it's random. Sometimes it'll only go up, sometimes it'll only go down, sometimes it'll go both ways, and it'll start in different places, which is really cool. So that's Spread. If you have no TG file placed in, it'll just default to 1, I'm pretty sure. All right, cool. So that's all of our blade effects. There is technically one more blade effect that is not represented in this folder that is kind of important, which is the tip drag effect. It's not actually in this folder, but you can find it if you go into your board and you go into drag. You can see there is a drag.tg. Now, I'm not entirely sure why, but a lot of the text here is corrupted, and if you try to like look at any of these text notepad files for like the notepad files that came on the board already, they're all corrupted. The only ones that aren't corrupted are the ones that are in the RAR. So this, however, looks really, really similar to TG2. It's not entirely the same. It's missing some things, but it's very, very similar. And it seems to me that it's basically just, as you can see here, the flip range is 125, 130, and here's 30 to 130. It's basically just a flip on the tip. So if you want to make your own tip drag effects, you can. You can use some of these TG files, put them in, and just change where the range of that is so that it's only isolated to the tip. 130 being the very tip of the blade, and anything less than that being more. So if you want a longer tip drag effect, you can make this number, this L range lower, etc., etc. So that's a way to make potentially other tip drag effects. I haven't messed around with it using like Comet or you know, any of the other ones, but in theory it should work just fine. It's the same TG file. It's reading everything the same way. But if you want to make your, you know, customize your tip drag, that's how you do it. So cool. So we've gone over now how everything works, you know, what all these files do and what they mean. Now let's go over where they go on the board and how to, you know, how to use them basically. So here we go. Here's my board, and we'll go into bank 1, and we'll start off with the blade effects, the main blade effects, which go in the hum folder. So as you can see here, we have our sound effect for hum01.wav, and we also have 1.bg. So here's where I could put all my BG files and all my FT files. And again, BG files and FT files will combine. You can use both. Something really notable is that what might happen if you use multiple BG files. If I were to put BG1 and BG2, or even just different, you know, same one BG but like different like settings or whatever, the blade should just switch through them, or not switch through them, but randomly pick one is what I mean. I've done this before with the FT files. You can have 2 different FT files, and it'll randomly, when you ignite it, pick one or the other. So if you want to have some random variability each time you turn on the lightsaber, you can do that. I haven't tested that with BG or the blaster effects, but it should work the same way. And that might actually be really cool for blaster effects if you want to have like potentially different, just randomly different blaster effects kind of happening, and have your lightsaber respond differently. But so here we have 1BG. I could put my FT files here, and then that would be the BG and FT files for that bank. Our OI files go in here and out. You can have separate in and out ones. So if you want to have one of those OI files for in, but you want something different when it turns off, you can do that. Maybe you wanted to turn on super fast, but kind of like, you know, flicker away when you turn it off. You can do that. So separate files for in and out. And then as for our blaster effects, or our TG files, they go inside of blaster, clash. Again, we kind of talked about drag being a weird case, but they go here too. Lockup and stab. And so that's gonna, you know, all of your blaster effects or lockup effects, you can put those there. You can change the settings individually for blaster, lockup, clash, and all that stuff, to create a more personalized lightsaber. And that's, I mean, that's basically it. I know this video maybe didn't go as in-depth as the first one, but if you've watched the first one and seen this one, I think that should basically cover everything. I've shown you all the basic effects. I didn't show you any of the BG-FT combinations you can make. I'd be here forever if I tried to do that. But you can play around with that. You can play around with all the settings to create some custom stuff. And if you make something cool, feel free to leave it in the comments or, you know, show it to me on Reddit. And that'll be really awesome. That's basically everything. A couple of really important things to note before you go ahead and start playing with this stuff, is that a lot of the effects, like I've said before, are really dependent on your main color, secondary color, and flash color. You might look at some of these blaster effects and think they look dumb, or, you know, at some of these blade effects and think they look dumb because the colors that I picked are maybe bad. But I tried to pick colors that would show up on camera really easily. So try out some of these with different speeds, different colors, and maybe you'll find something you like. Like I said before, BG and FT files can be mixed. You can have both of those files inside of the hum folder to create some different effects. And you can have multiple BG and FT files, or just multiple of these files in general, and the Saber should pick them randomly. All right, so that should wrap up everything. If I missed anything, feel free to leave a comment or message me on Reddit, and I will try to answer you or make a follow-up video. Again, I don't know what happened with that fade effect. If I find out anything about it, I will leave a comment, or, you know, I'll pin a comment or post on Reddit about it. If you know what that does, feel free to also leave a comment. I will pin it, and I will help people find that. But unfortunately, I wanted to get this video out soon, and I didn't really want to mess around for too long. I know I promised this video out a while ago, so I wanted to get this out now. And I know I said it at the beginning of the video, but if you appreciate what I'm doing here at Crashed X-Wing, please consider subscribing, leaving a like. There's going to be new Star Wars, Disney, or, you know, Star Wars, Disney's Galaxy's Edge content, lightsaber content, just stuff coming down the pipeline in the future. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope this helped some people. And I will catch you guys next time.